Ty,
Yeah.
your thoughts on the New England Patriots and what occurred on Sunday?
So I'll say it again. I know it's getting a little repetitive, but I like our quarterback. Let's give compliments first. I think he has a great upside. I mean, he's throwing like a pick damn near every game, every other game, but that's expected of a rookie quarterback, especially when you don't have a great offensive line protecting them and no weapons.
Wait. So when you talk about the picks, you talk about the turnovers. That is more in your mind on the lack of an offensive, on youth, but you were blaming the offensive line.
No, youth and the lack of offensive line.
This is actually back-to-back weeks where I feel like the line was pretty good.
It's the receivers. You got no receivers. Even he talked about it at the end of the game where him and who was it? Keyshawn Booty or Pop Douglas? Yeah, weren't on the same page. That'll come, I think, ultimately, read and cover
but
too.
He can use his legs, though, so that's another thing. He can get out of a lot of stuff and make up for the lack of protection because he's a good scrambler. You know what I mean? He can use his legs. But I want to go to the defense.
Okay.
See, now that's a problem.
Yeah.
As a defense, you take that personally. You can't let two receivers get 100 yards. Yeah. You know what I mean? So somebody is not covering nobody.
Yeah,
they're not tackling either.
They're not tackling. Well, that way that's been a problem. But when you just let a guy do anything he wants, as he's like, when is somebody Wiggy gonna go up there and play bump and run? When is somebody gonna go get up in somebody's face and take you right there off the line of scrimmage? I do not see that.
Wiggy doesn't want to hear it. We were in fact arguing about it earlier, but isn't that a glaring mistake by Drake Maye? Like, when you look at Christian Gonzalez, who has been extraordinary, and you got him out on the boundary and not covering one of those two guys, is
see, now that right there. Now see, that's that you got to blame that on the coach. Then if that's the case, you know what I mean. If he's not going, because I would think the type of talent that Christian Gonzalez, you got to put him on Puka. Or you got to put him on Cooper Kupp, and that is your guy, period. You know, he's always on somebody. You don't need him to blitz. I mean, even though he wants to blitz, I always wanted to blitz. I used to go to Belichick all the time. Let me blitz, coach. Let me blitz. Hell no. You get paid to cover.
Well,
you know what I mean?
This is what I had assumed would be Drake Maye in his first year as an NFL head coach would be his, his forte. Would be that side of the football, and it doesn't seem to be. And so he, when he is on with us like he was yesterday, he kind of explains these things away like, if they had gone differently, it would have been, would have been a great occurrence. I mean, I asked him yesterday about the zero blitz, which was on a second down early in that football game. And he said, well, if there'd been a sack, you would have loved it. But that's not what happened.
No, when you do stuff like that early and you don't have an abundance of talent, especially in the secondary outside of Christian Gonzalez, you're exposing your other guys when you do a zero blitz. Because when you go after it, those guys are one-on-one, they're exposed. And if you don't have the talent to cover, hey, that's an accident waiting to happen. And it's going to be very fortunate for a receiving core like the Rams and a quarterback like that. You know what I mean? You give them and if they protect it, you're going to lose every time because you don't have that abundance of talent.
Well, unless you have a decent corner that can play man-to-man coverage.
Exactly. But they got one and not using it like that.
Well, the problem I have, because the secondary coming into the season, we were like, should be fine. And I think that, Mayo's probably, like Bill, that's where I give Bill the edge. But, it's 20 plus on 40 years of, defensive genius versus Mayo, who's really trying to do it for the first time on his own. So we can't compare Mayo's defense to Bill Belichick's defense because I think Bill obviously puts up a good game plan. It's just, I think more so is your talent you don't have on defense.
That's what I'm saying. So Bill had talent because in certain situations, and if you know your talent, Bill's not going to call that in that situation, knowing that he ain't got no coverage right there. You know what I mean? Don't call the zero. You try to protect guys. And when, if someone was hurt, Bill would always try to protect the other guy and not expect him to do the same thing. Like if I went down, until you prove yourself, he wouldn't expect you to go out there and do the same thing that I was assigned to do. You know what I mean? So my backup, that's why you're my backup.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you're supposed to coach in that aspect until they get comfortable enough to do so and go out there and hold it down on themselves, on their own.
Right. And I mean, Jonathan Jones gets cooked, and you would expect he's a guy that's been around for a while, and you would think, okay, he would have had a better opportunity. I understand he's on an island there. But if you look at it, all Cooper Kupp does is run a skinny post, and he's 7 yards off.
And it wasn't a great route.
No,
Jones
it
wasn't
great.
happy with how he handled that, though. He wished he could take that one
Right,
back.
because
So.
if you look at the rest of the receivers, that I'm kind of just looking at it, they're all in pretty good coverage, except for he's outside leverage on a guy who's running like you said, a lazy skinny post, and if you're not there, they don't get to him in time. It's Cooper Kupp sitting his head on the goalpost. I wonder like I get the defensive element, and their thing is, Gerard's thing is, it's more the injuries, but they're just too inconsistent. Like, you look at them, and they're like, all right, it's one good game, and then they have a really bad game. This defense has been inconsistent all year long.
There's a lot of pieces that they need to put in place to be competitive, both offensively and defensively.
Mm-hmm.
So what is going to be the priority come draft time?
Right.
It's going to be interesting to see what that priority is going to be, whether it's going to be offensive lineman, was it going to be a receiver to give the quarterback of the future some help? Is it going to be some defensive players?
Where would you put it?
I think with May, you got to give him some more options. You got to give him, a solid. And I think Stevenson is a decent running back, serviceable for sure. But give him somebody on the outside. Because the way he can extend plays and use his legs, you got to give him a receiver that at least put fear in somebody else. I can't run, and I ain't afraid of none of those guys.
Yeah.
I go out there one-on-one and might win one Wiggy on 7-on-7 right now. You know what I mean?
I mean, really, like, Bourne is really the – is there anybody else that you would
No, I wouldn't keep anybody, but I think we might be
Polk has more penalties than he has receptions.
Yeah,
penalties.
He's got 4 penalties and 3 catches.
Right.
What do you do?
Jumping off
Offsides?
sides. He's just like he's always doing something.
See?
But I think the thing that we might be missing is we're always talking about the offense, and I've said this, Hunter Henry is decent. I think you can, the past couple of weeks, the O-line, you said it, Greg, and you're right. Not bad. You just brought it up, Ty. Ramondre Stevenson is serviceable. You could probably find somebody. The Gibson kid's not bad. You're missing that number one on offense, but I think your bigger issue is defensively, you should be you know what I'm doing? Because this team cannot get to the quarterback. I'm seeing what's going on with Max Crosby in Vegas. Like, I'm looking to, we always talk about trade for this guy and trade for that guy. We might have to start looking at guys up front that can get to the quarterback and make things easier for those guys in the back end.
When you elevate Gerard Mayo, how is the defense not the best side of the football on this team?
Because you don't have the talent.
You ain't got. It's not there, Greg. I'm trying to tell you.
We talked about going into the season. We talked about last season. Top 10 defense.
Last season, Bill was the head of that defense. Completely different.
Okay.
Different scheme.
So
and some guys gone too, right?
At some point, you have to question Gerard Mayo.
Oh, I'm not questioning.
I mean, he's in denial, it seems like, sometimes when he's on this radio show.
Yeah,
I would also just offer, Greg, that the Patriots got relatively fortunate in the quarterbacks they faced last year. They faced a lot of backups. Like this year, they've had 2 Aaron Rodgers opponents. They've had Joe Burrow. They've had Matthew Stafford, who played at an elite level. Trevor Lawrence, say what you want about him, first pick in the draft. They haven't had as easy of a road against quarterbacks in their season to this point. That's been a big difference.
I mean, I don't think Aaron Rodgers. He ain't looking like Aaron Rodgers.
The only good game that Aaron Rodgers played was against your sad football team.
Right. Well, I'm just saying, entering the year, you all thought that the Jets were going to dominate with Aaron Rodgers.
At the beginning of the year, but you were right about that. But Ty will tell you, when you look at this team, you're supposed to have somebody at every level where you're like, especially on defense, like, all right, we need to know where this guy is. I give you Barmore, but he's dealing with the injury. And he's the guy who led your team in sacks last year. There's no way your interior defensive lineman should lead in your team in sacks unless it's Aaron Donald. Then you look at your corner. Christian Gonzalez, I think, is good.
He's good.
I mean, Duggar was back and missed a tackle on Sunday.
You got no edge guys.
Everybody's going to miss a tackle. You're going to give up a play here and there. I know.
It's
I wish
glaring the way they missed them, though.
Oh yeah. It is. It's I say just the fundamentals. I say old school Oklahoma drill, Wiggy. I don't know, but people don't tackle no more in practice, Greg, because it's like it's.
But it looks
crazy.
like they give up out there. It looks like they stop running when they're trying to go.
Because it's not normal, Coco. They're not tackling because they're protecting the players so they can go out there and play the game. But if you don't practice tackling, if you don't do those type of drills, how are you going to perform them in games? You know what I mean? That's just what it is. And I get the whole thing of, you want to play on Sunday and protect players, but when you put a product out there that is not fun to watch, that is not good football, you might need to reconsider that and change some things. You know what I mean? We had to practice every day, tackle, and you just need to be healthy enough to play the game.
And I would this is the quarterbacks last year. They had Tommy Cutlets, they had Sam Howell, they had Ellinger, they had Derek Carr, who stinks, they had Zach Wilson twice instead of Aaron Rodgers. They had the guy with the small hands with the Steelers. Not exactly the murderer's row of quarterbacks.
That's a good take right there.
And the other thing I look at is they have what? They're 3-8 over that's their record. That's what? What is that? 11 games?
Yeah.
11 games. Your number one sack getter is Dedrick Wise with 5 through 11 games. Ty will tell you as a defensive guy, when you got a guy that can get to the quarterback consistently and is an animal where you have to game plan for, you might have lost a lot with Matt Judon. I know he's struggling in Atlanta, and I like the third round pick you got from him, but no one has stepped up in his place. I thought it was
They had 9 sacks the week prior.
But if you look at the 9 sacks, 3 of them came off of blitzes.
Judon is struggling down there.
Yeah, I think he's not doing great down there. But if you look at that, how many of those sacks? Schooler had a sack that came off of a blitz. The what's his name? Petrus, he had a sack that came off. Pettis, excuse me, that came off a blitz. Jelani Tavai's sack came off a blitz when he was the inside linebacker. So when you start to think about sacks, yes, you have to manufacture them when you don't have a guy like a Bosa, Max Crosby, a Myles Garrett, where you can just say, all right, go get him, dog. You don't have that. And Ty will tell you how much help it helps out in the back end.
It helps out a lot. But if you think about the way we played as well, Wiggy, we didn't have anybody just go get him because they had so many responsibilities. So if you compare our teams with the names and some of the guys that's on this team right now, you can just go by position defensively. We got Willie McGinnis out there, Richard Seymour, Bobby Hamilton, Ted Washington. Then you got Mike Vrabel, Roman Pfeiffer, Teddy Bruschi, Rodney Harrison, Ty Law, Lori Malloy. You sit there looking, talk about these type of names and this type of talent. Yeah. It is different when you look around and you see this team right now. Who is they? Mike Vrabel. Who is there? Willie McGinnis. Who is there? Teddy Bruschi. Who is Richard Seymour on this team? So that's what I'm talking about, talent. I don't give a damn how good you think you are as a coach. Yeah. If you don't have the talent, you're not going to be too successful.
Yeah, but was Ted Washington the scariest teammate you ever had? Because he was terrifying.
You know what? He was terrifying to look at, but he was the nicest, funniest, silliest dude, ever. You know what I mean? He wasn't aggressive at all.
Was he as big as Will
in the locker room?
He was way bigger than Will Ford.
Bigger than Will Ford?
Oh, yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
He was
way bigger than
Will
Ford.
Like width?
Width, height,
everything.
That thing was, he was an absolute
But he was like a gentle giant when it comes to the locker room and being around the guys, though. You know what I mean?
We got to take a quick break.